It was all corporate red carpet treatment for the National Securities Commission men, starting with a seaplane flight to their Newcastle meeting. And first impressions, it seems, were good.
Newcastle from the air is, very interesting, very nice. I liked it.
Then a chauffeur-driven tour of the buildings nominated as possible short-term accommodation. Nesca House, the old SCC building, the Venture building and the Hunter Mall Chambers. The National Securities Commission was created by the federal government by combining the separate state corporate affairs bureaus. For the first time, one body will hold the records of all Australia's 80,000 companies. That demands a very big and very advanced computer library, a database for every commission office in Australia to work from. Newcastle and the Latrobe Valley in Victoria are finalists in the race for that $30 million building. Newcastle had its chance to impress today. Deputy Premier Wilshere heading a New South Wales delegation drawn together to brief Tony Harknell, and the location was no coincidence. The Newcastle group believes the third proposed glass building on the foreshore would be ideal, as the Commission wants to build from the ground up.
The ultimate building that would operate this sort of technology has to be custom designed.
The Council has promised assistance in fast-tracking the building, and today the state government threw its weight behind the proposal, Wilshere announcing a package of incentives worth $1.5 million. Federal member for Newcastle, Alan Morris, had attacked the state government for leaving its offer so late.
And all he's doing is denigrating Newcastle. That I find is really a silly act.
The Commission will make its decision next Friday, but according to Tony Harknell, the lateness of Newcastle's submission is not a disadvantage.
It probably puts Victoria at a slight disadvantage because they've, as it were, created the learning curve.
What exactly Victoria has offered, Mr Harknell wouldn't say, although it is believed to be substantial. If the Securities Commission does end up in Wharf Road, Newcastle, you can bet it'll have a lot to do with the financial side of those secret deals. The Commission is, after all, very money conscious, as well as keeping track of dodgy operations. The information stored in these databases will be available to the public at a price, and companies are expected to pay millions a year to access it. Ross Hampton, NBN News.
Long accustomed to fighting for its survival, the Hunter Manning Tourist Authority is now struggling to put itself out of business. A series of bureaucratic hiccups has stood in the way of a resolution to wind up its affairs and appoint a liquidator. That motion was to be considered at today's annual general meeting, but it wasn't to be. There wasn't a quorum. The authority has been plagued with problems since its establishment in 1986. Its vision of regional tourism promotion found little favour with a number of local government bodies, who subsequently left the organisation. Add to this a withdrawal of state government funding, and the organisation had serious problems. The annual report, due to be tabled at today's failed annual general meeting, is blunt about the Tourist Authority's likely demise. The stated reasons: the apparent apathetic attitude of several of the region's largest councils in the promotion of tourism on a regional basis, and the determination of the state government to withdraw funds from an organisation set up by the previous state government. It's now likely the death knell will be dealt in 1 week's time, with the annual general meeting set to reconvene to consider the as yet unheard motion to wind up the association. On that occasion, only 3 members will be needed to reach a quorum.
Police combined with roads and traffic inspectors in the 6-hour blitz. The blitz is a continuation of Operation Long Haul that began shortly after the fatal Grafton bus smash last month. Police carried out stringent checks on logbooks, licences and registrations. 50 infringement notices were handed out at an average cost of $100 each to the truckie. Roads and traffic inspectors checked weights with mobile scales. Those drivers found overloaded were given the option to lighten their load on the spot or have their truck impounded by the roadside. A number of fines were also handed out for faulty suspension and steering. One driver had his truck red labelled after it was found he had no brakes at all and relied on gears to slow him down. The operation is expected to continue tomorrow with extra officers to check axle brakes and dangerous goods carriers. Locals believe some sort of chemical flowed into Arimba Creek on Sunday when the first dead fish were noticed. It wasn't until today, when thousands floated to the surface, that the extent of the carnage was glaringly obvious to residents. Arimba Creek flows from Wyong down into the Tuggerah Lakes system. A number of stormwater canals drain into the creek, including one from the Berkeley Vale Industrial Estate. Operating in the estate are sawmills, fuel depots and textiles factories. Chairman of the Tuggerah Lakes Fish Co-op, Ted Biles, believes one of the factories is responsible for allowing some chemical to flow into the storm canals. Mr Biles says the spill couldn't happen at a worse time because large schools of fish are in the creek to spawn.
It stretches from the mouth of Arimba Creek, and we're now up above the road bridge to the point of the industrial estate. I believe that on Sunday morning there was no dead fish up round above the industrial estate, whether that means anything or not.
What sort of effect is it going to have on your industry?
Well, I don't know what it's killed in spawn or small fish. This is, what it's done down that you can't see, or what it's done to the water, if it's done anything to the water, but it's killed a fair crop of fish there.
Wyong Council officers earlier this morning assured residents that the fish deaths were probably caused by a lack of oxygen in the water from recent rain. However, more live fish have come back to the creek and the water does not smell. During our trip along the 3-kilometre creek, we came across a number of dead birds, animals that would not die due to a lack of oxygen in the water. Throughout today, fishing inspectors have been collecting dead fish to be tested. The State Pollution Control Commission late this afternoon said they had received a number of complaints about the dead fish and would launch an investigation with a full report tabled by Friday. Darren Curtis for NBN News.
Kathy Mežulandzik is a Year 11 student at the St Francis Xavier College. Kathy studies Croatian for the HSC, but because classes aren't available locally, every Saturday at 6 in the morning she catches the train to Sydney to attend classes at Ashfield. It's a 3.5-hour trip, but she says her weekly 3-hour language class is worth it.
It goes towards my HSC, and also it improves on my Croatian so I don't forget it.
Kathy's just one of a handful of students who make that weekly journey. The rest of the estimated 400 students who want to study community languages such as Russian, Italian, Polish, Chinese and Vietnamese find the journey too much and end up studying something else instead. Earlier this year, an Education Department survey suggested community language classes were needed. The Ethnic Communities Council, which has been pushing for local classes for 6 years, believed they were to have been established in March this year. The council was soon forced to dash those hopes.
The children, right from the beginning of the year, whose expectations were raised, delayed for a long time making choices as to what subjects they would continue.
Ms Walsh says she's not been given a reason why classes aren't being run and adds she can't get a definite answer from the Education Department whether classes will run next year. Until an answer is found, students like Kathy Mežulandzik will have to continue their weekly journey to Sydney.
They converged on Newcastle Civic Park in their hundreds, newborn babes to senior citizens joining forces to add their weight to the growing ranks of pharmacy staff Australia-wide who are tackling the government head-on over its plans to slash prescription subsidies by 23%.
But if there was a clear message from today's turnout, it was that this dispute isn't going to be left for the big boys to fight out in the boardroom. 90% of today's roll-up comprised young female pharmacy assistants. And as the rally progressed, it quickly became evident for them this is far more than a squabble over dollars and cents. It's a fight for survival.
A lot of pharmacies will be put out of business, which means we'll be out of a job. If this today doesn't come off, I could be out of a job tomorrow. Even though I've been working in pharmacy for 10 years, if they close up, what are you supposed to do? It's all that we know.
A fear that, according to local protest organiser Debbie Taffel, is well-founded.
Jobs have already gone. As you saw today, there was one girl who was very concerned about her job speaking today, but I know of a number of girls who've already lost their jobs as a direct result of the cuts in the pharmaceutical benefits.
Speakers from Sydney, Wollongong, Canberra and Newcastle addressed today's rally, some of them, like Diane Souter from Thornton Pharmacy, spelling out the grim ultimatum all pharmacy staff are hoping they'll be spared.
If the government goes ahead with these cuts, I will lose my job and our pharmacy will close.
From the other side of the fence, Canberra pensioner Pat Marnie urged the women to continue their fight. She said if a third of Australia's pharmacies closed as a result of the cutbacks as predicted, the effects in the elderly community would be catastrophic. With such words to inspire the protesters, they then took to the city streets, marching down Hunter Street to the office of Member for Newcastle Alan Morris to voice their anger. Mr Morris wasn't there, he had prior engagements. More speeches and more chanting followed before the rally disbanded, with workers vowing more of the same action in the weeks to come.
He did not give them long speeches.
Since January this year, Newcastle police have been called to more than 2,500 car accidents. 203 of those accidents were alcohol related. Although it's only a small percentage, in each one people were injured or killed. A factor that police say has prompted them to continue breath testing campaigns and to carry out the testing during all hours of the day and night.
It will be a round-the-clock operation, 24 hours per day. And we are fielding as many officers as possible. And we've found that despite our efforts with random breath testing, both in the stationary and the mobile mode, the alcohol-related crashes are still a constant problem. People are still drinking and driving.
Operation Big Blow begins at midnight and will continue through to Monday morning. Police say besides main roads and highways, particular attention will be paid to back streets around the city centre. Darren Curtis for NBN News.
Members of the Canberra Guitar Ensemble have been performing together for 3 years. The bass, baritone, standard and treble guitars are handcrafted especially for the artists, creating a unique orchestral sound with just a quartet. The Australia Council spent $10,000 in developing the instruments, an investment which the ensemble believes may revolutionise classic guitar. The quartet will perform at the Newcastle Conservatorium tomorrow night at 8 o'clock.
For most, the cricket season will still be in full swing, but for a dedicated band of footballers in Knights gear, it's welcome to the footy season on the 9th of February. Parramatta will make the trip to the International Sports Centre to play the twilight match against the Knights, with the reserves and first grades in combat. The following Friday night, the 16th of February, Cronulla and Newcastle will meet in the Knockout Cup in Tamworth, with big money and early psychological advantages up for grabs. February's a busy month as the St George Dragons make the pilgrimage north on the 25th for a trial match against the Knights. March is also a crucial month for the build-up to the start of the Winfield Cup, with the Sevens tournament being played at the Parramatta Stadium on the 10th and the big match, the Challenge Cup, being staged either the 4th or the 10th. That match should attract a huge crowd to the ISC, as the current premiers, the Canberra Raiders, will be in town with their star-studded lineup, and it would be a coup for the Knights to pinch an early victory. The season proper gets underway on the weekend of the 16th, 17th and 18th of March. It was a painful start to the 8-event program for Thompson, as his Mount Isle of Palm, closest to the rails, decided that it was too hot at Cessnock for a jockey and promptly unloaded the top hoop. But the tenacity and brilliance of Thompson shone through as he steered Splendid Spirit to victory in the feature race, the Maitland Cup, over 1,100 metres.
At the tail as they wheel around the corner in the Maitland Mercury Cup, and Splendid Spirit, the favourite, takes over from Black Chariot there, followed by Star Gitano, and Mungunny further back with Loctony Prince, but the favourite Splendid Spirit in full flight below the 200. Robert Thompson keeping the favourite going, and Splendid Spirit takes out the Maitland Mercury Cup. Hidden Charges from last to run second.
It will be a busy 24-hour period for Thompson as he's engaged to ride Newcastle mare Lady Hunderley in the Sandown Cup in Melbourne tomorrow. And Robert likes his chances.
Yes, Mike, I think she'll run very well. I was very happy with her run last week, and Paul Perry said she's done very well this week, so I'm looking for a real good run tomorrow.
NBN tipster Gary Harley also is keen on Lady Hunderley.
Mike, tremendous value at the price this morning, 10 to 1. Her run in Melbourne last Saturday was tip-top. She was knocked over early in the race, made up a lot of ground in the run home, and with the lighter weight tomorrow, I think she'll be very, very hard to beat. The Cup is race 5. I like her to win. Citizen's run in the Melbourne Cup was very good. He's number 4. I've put him in for second. And Impresetto, who won well at Flemington the other day, I like him for third. In the daily double races 6 and 7, 4 Heavenly Vein and 1 Scalata. The meeting at Rose Hill is good. We see the promising 4-year-old Stayer Aladdin in the first leg of the double race 6, and I think he's the best bet of the day. Number 3 Aladdin to win. Race 7 I like number 10 Babskay. He's promising also. And the trifecta race 6, 3 Aladdin, 7 Mint Machine and 6 Gold Mace. Greyhound racing at Beaumont Park. It's Derby Day there tomorrow. First leg race 9, 2 Ritzy Mitzi. Race 10, number 7 Shy Rose. And in the Derby, I like them 2, 1 and 7, Lucky Escape, Maxi Active and Preference. They're pacing tomorrow night at Maitland, a tremendous program there. First leg race 3, number 6 Our Mr. Bye Bye. Second leg race 4, 8 Beau Pronto. And the double or the trifecta on race 2, 1, 9 and 7, 154, 9 Another Band and 7 Overactive.
This $30,000 playground with specially designed slides and climbing racks seems to be good fun for the children, but is proving to be a huge headache for Singleton Council.
What we're trying to do there is we're trying to set up a balance between the enjoyment that the children obviously have and the safety requirements of the equipment.
A survey released by the Department of Local Government has shown that more than a quarter of Australia's councils have looked into removing equipment from playgrounds for reasons of safety. In New South Wales, $10 million was spent this year by councils on liability insurance. Hunter councils such as Maitland and Lake Macquarie have spent vast amounts of money and time redesigning playgrounds to reduce accidents. The accident at Singleton, where a 7-year-old boy broke his elbow on this flying fox, brought a call from his mother to remove the flying fox as it was too dangerous. However, not all parents feel councils should be responsible.
I believe it's the responsibility of every parent, if they're going to bring children to the park, to look after them.
One issue parents and councils definitely agree on is that playgrounds should not be closed down completely, simply to cover threats of legal action. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
In Heat 9, Joel Fitzgerald set the early pace with excellent wave selection, and he put a gap between himself and the other competitors. Fitzgerald showed all the moves to notch some high-scoring rides. But Jake Spooner hit form in the middle of the heat and came home in front of the raging pack. And if Spooner can reproduce this form tomorrow, he's going to be tough to beat. But ahead of him, plenty of stiff opposition. Michael Mungabari and Neil Purchase Jr. of the Gold Coast have won their way through to the next round and were impressive in today's choppy swell. Of the local board riders, Lee Holmes of the Newcastle Beach Club won his way through to round 3, and Michael Darcy of Redhead turned in a great performance to advance to the next round. Tomorrow, beginning at 7 a.m. for the early risers, round 2 of the cadets gets underway, as does round 4 of the juniors, and all the top seeds, including Matt Hoy, hit the water around 11 a.m. A full report of Day 3 of Surfest 89 in NBN's News tomorrow night at 6.
The push for an airport of international standards in the Hunter has been going on for almost a decade. Now, the Chamber of Commerce, a strong airport supporter, has announced another report that will encompass all the findings of previous studies and present the strongest case yet.
Well, we'll be covering all the environmental side of it. We'll be looking at what needs to be developed in tarmac and aprons and passenger facilities, transport considerations, airspace considerations, noise, all the aspects that you would expect.
The Chamber's plan has been for the new airport to be based around a present facility. Previous investigations have seen it lean towards the RAAF base at Williamtown. Airport Task Force Chairman Rob Chenery said he believes it could accommodate a commercial facility for as little as $50 million. That's a fraction of the cost of a third runway for Sydney, and with a minimum amount of work.
Williamtown is a prime candidate, and from what the business community believes, it isn't a big job to share the facility with the military, as occurs in Canberra and Darwin, and the precedent's already there. And certainly Williamtown is already capable of handling jumbo jet aircraft.
The report is being handled by Newcastle-based consulting firm Australian Enviroplan Corporation, who expect it to be completed by early 1990. The results will then be tabled, and Rob Chenery says the Chamber will then undertake the job of gathering support from politicians and the community.
Love, it's the Trevor Bun.
Day 3 of the Surfest Carnival dawned on less than perfect conditions. A gusty southeaster did its best to chop up the surf. The resulting waves were lumpy, and a mass of white water made it difficult for the surfers to see out their rides. Nevertheless, it failed to dampen the enthusiasm of the young surfers who'd made it through to the quarter-finals in both the juniors and the cadets section. Undoubtedly, the highlight of the day was the contest between last year's Pro-Junior champ Adam Faunce of Avoca, the Gold Coast's Neil Purchase, and two of the sport's hottest juniors at the moment, Newcastle's Matt Hoy and Brazil's Flavio Paradats. Despite the messy conditions, all four turned on some strong rides. The judges were clearly impressed and, in a close result, awarded the points to Flavio and Matt. Afterwards, both admitted they were relieved to have survived the less than perfect conditions.
It's really sharpy out there and windy. You can't see anything what's going on, so just, trust on your luck and your ways and pray.
The conditions are really hard, actually. It's a really hard paddle, and it's hard to get the right wave, hard to get the link up to the shore break,
Unfortunately for Matt, his winning streak ended there. In the semis, he was knocked out. Flavio, however, won his semi to progress into the $2,700 junior final to be staged next Saturday. He'll be up against Bondi's David Davidson, Matt Cattle of Narrabeen and Newcastle's own Lee Holmes. This afternoon also saw the final of the cadets, and there it was a hometown victory. Merryweather's Chad Edser picking up the $800 winner's cheque and being crowned the new ASPA cadet champion after a strong final. Tomorrow will be a rest day for the surfers, with competition in the early stages of the big BHP Steel International to get underway on Tuesday.